have so many like French.
Yeah, that stuff. I've done, yeah, but now I do mostly pastel.
I feel like I did watercolor for a long time, and now I'm like doing the acrylic. And I don't want to do all the smelly things with the
Okay, let's do it.
I don't want to, I have to buy.
Let's do it.
Right.
I kind of want to bridge that, but I still like my acrylic.
I love acrylics. They're so
Okay, I'm
versatile.
going to jump up here quickly, get this thing started, and just basically want to first of all just say welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, welcome back to the association for a new season. Welcome back to being inside. Okay, this is the first time in a year and a half we've been here. It's a good feeling. It really is. We were doing them outside for a while. I mean, here we were getting about 50 people a session before COVID. And then we moved outside. We were getting 20, 25 in that range, which was good. It really was to be outside. Some of those days were challenging with the weather, and some of them were actually gorgeous. You know, we were at Patriot Place, and one of the meetings we actually looked up, and there were 2 eagles flying above us. You know, it was gorgeous. It really was. But it's really nice to be inside now, where we can do more things. We got Paul in here. Paul, welcome back. It's good to have you back here. So it's great to be able to do these things again. Not have the wind and holding an easel, so it's like go over or something. You know, the last meeting we were holding an easel back with bungee cords, and but so it really is great. I got a few things to talk about here. Let me just make sure I have this thing just to make sure I got them all. First of all, Lori's working right now with something she was experimenting with. It's a video that we have Paul doing the video with the Foxboro cable access. Lori's working with it so that other members who are outside of Foxboro, and I understand to say that Foxboro, that he may probably be able to get it outside too, or people have access to what Paul's doing. But this makes it a little bit easy for some people to get access who may not want to be coming here physically indoors right now, and I can understand why. Okay, this gives them another opportunity to watch, see what's going on, and actually to respond back, ask questions through Lori. If they have a question for the demonstrator, Lori can facilitate with that father. So it works out. We hopefully work out really nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Big step forward. So it's great. Let's see here. What else we got here? Oh yeah. As far as we can no longer have food here at these meetings if we're indoors. And it's a library policy rule. You can bring drinks or something, quick snack for yourself, but you can't bring something to share with others. And I don't quite know yet whether that's just a COVID thing or it's going to be a permanent thing. I don't know. I think they were actually starting it just before COVID came into play. So it might be a permanent thing here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You can bring coffee or drinks, whatever you want for yourself, or a quick snack, but you can't bring something like we used to have out there. I used to love that.
Yeah.
Joanne would bring her cookies, her chocolate chip cookies, and I loved that. We have the Fall Art Show that's coming up in November. It's going to be at the Artist Studio and Gallery at Patriot Place. We do, our association, we do a show every spring and every fall. This will be the fall show. Be at the Artist Studio at Patriot Place. It's the weekend of November 19th through 21 and 26th through 28. I say that because right now the art gallery is only open on the weekends, or if someone happens to be there. If one of us artists is there painting, then it's open. Okay, but before COVID we were 7 days a week, but now since COVID we're just doing the weekends right now again. And for size, like we've had before, the maximum size for a painting to be put in the show is 48 inches on the longest side. It's $20 for one piece, $30 for two. Drop off is Tuesday, November 16th, 3 to 6 p.m. This is all in the newsletter, but I just wanted to let bring it out to you again, let you know about it. And pickup is Sunday after, we said Sunday afternoon the 28th, but I just realized there's a 1 p.m. Pats game
Yeah.
that day. So if you want to come on Saturday afternoon and pick up your artwork, I would recommend that. Okay, you know, we all know how traffic can be there. It's great being there. I love it being there the game day. There's so much excitement. But I know for some people, they don't want to battle the traffic, and I understand. So if you want to come on Saturday, you can do that. And then we're doing something that we started last time, is if something does sell during the show, we're charging a 10% commission, but that 10% goes to our scholarship fund. Okay, we want to keep this fund going forever, and we don't want to take money out and not put money in. We want to be always, replenishing what we take out and putting even more in. Okay, and we've been doing that for many years now. This is a new way of doing that. So if something does sell, we take 10% of the sale price and put that towards a scholarship. And then, what else we got here? Oh, another show to tell you about. Something that the Artist Studio and Gallery Patriot Place is doing with Patriot Place and with Waste Management. It's a newsletter. It's called Debunk Junk Art Contest. Okay, and it's all about taking trash or things that you'd normally throw away and turning them into enjoyable artwork. And Patriot Place and Waste Management are going to put some money towards this as well for prizes. It's a pretty, I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I'm working on a piece right now for it. And really, like I said, it's all about turning trash or junk into enjoyable artwork, things that you'd normally throw away. There's going to be 2 categories. One is the youth up through age 17, and then adult. So the first weekend, it's going to be, let me see here, make sure I got this right. It's going to be December 10 through 12. That's when the youth category is going to be on display. And then the adult category will be December 17 through 19. And one of that week before, we'll have a drop-off for each one of them. One for the youth and one for the adult. And let's see here. There's no entry fee, so it's fantastic. It really is. I'm hoping that everyone wants to try and work something through in this. It's challenging. It really is. But at the same time, I think it's going to be some really, really cool artwork.
I've always thought about doing that.
Yeah, oh, it's great. It really is. You got to think differently, And there's a website up there. It's in the newsletter. It's patriot-place.com/debunk, so DEBUNK, junk contest. And that has not only the information in there, but also the entry form is in there as well. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, let me know. I'll let you know what's going on. And then one more thing to talk about here before we get to Barbara, and that is that this coming Saturday, as long as the weather holds off, right now they were saying rain, now that they went 50% rain, now it's 30% rain possibility. I'm hoping it's going to be 0% at some point. We're going to have a paint out at the Art Gallery Patriot Place. They're having their Ocean Spray Harvest Festival that day, Patriot Place is. We're going to have the paint out along with it. So if you want to come, bring your artwork, 1 to 5 p.m., set up outside or inside. We have space inside as well. You can come in, paint. There's going to be a lot of people walking around. It's going to be a very good, no charge. Just come in and bring your artwork and paint along with the other artists. George, many of you guys have been here many times. It's a fun day. It really is. And like I said, you can be inside or outside. If you do want to paint outside, just bring something to anchor down your easel, because the wind can get a little, every once in a while a gust of wind comes through. So just keep that in mind. And then that's all I really have. I'm going to turn this over to Chris. Chris, so you can introduce Barbara.
Thank you.
And welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
This evening, our Demonstrator is Barbara Edlund Healy. Her paintings reflect the quiet beauty of New England coast. She does oil and acrylic paintings that are inspired by diverse color of light, atmosphere, and nature. Uses color to enliven peaceful landscape, seascape, and gardens. Her paintings try to be more than a snapshot, giving a feel of the breeze on a summer sail or a memory of an evening walk. After growing up in South Windsor, Connecticut, Barbara attended UMass Dartmouth. Her degree in textile design has given her a background in color, but she often paints plein air to learn from nature. Her studio in Dartmouth, Mass. is on the South Coast Artist Open Studio Tour. Recent awards include first place in oils, All New England Cape Cod Art Center, October of 2020, which is a very prestigious award. Without further ado,
Thank
Barbara.
you. Well, thanks everybody for having me. And one thing I'd like to say is I hope you'll just yell out any questions you have while I'm working. And I'll try to answer and try to talk and paint. I'm really lucky. I live in Dartmouth. I'm about 5 miles from the ocean, biking distance, kayaking distance. And this, what I'm going to paint tonight is actually the Slocum River, which is right near my house. It's a lovely river for kayaking because it has very little motorboat traffic. And it goes from Russell Mills in Dartmouth down to Demarest Lloyd State Park in the ocean. It's really pretty. And I like taking reference photos from my kayak. I think you get a really nice low eye level, which is interesting. I like to go out and paint Nearham Harbor or Westport River, Slocum River. I like painting outside, but I also work in the studio. I do some bigger things outside, but once you get this big or this big, I think most of the time it's studio work. I like being inspired by nature, and it's ever changing. You're capturing where it is in that particular time. I also think I have people I know that are like, oh, you painted another boat. I do a lot of boats, but I'm a boater. We have a power boat, we fish, we sail, I kayak. I think you have to paint what you like. You can't get excited about things that you don't like or that's just not really your thing. I like other people's subjects and how they do them, but not necessarily it's something that excites me. And I think if you can't be excited about your artwork, it's very hard to get someone excited to buy it. And I'm now in that, I'm trying to sell some work. I'm in Norton Gallery in Nearham and Rogers in Mattapoisett. And sometimes I do Spring Bowl, which is in Newport. They do a lot of group shows. So if you're interested in showing at Newport, they do reasonably priced group shows that you can enter. All painting is an illusion. You're trying to, if you're doing realistic painting, which I don't want to do a photographic painting, but I want it to look like outside or recognizable. So I'm turning a 3D subject into a 2D subject. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. And one is using perspective. And my boat has some perspective. Normally, when you look at boats, if you're any distance away, they're flat in the water because the water is flat. I'm so close here that I'm getting, I'm at the close corner and it's going up on both sides. But normally, if you're looking out in the harbor, all those bottoms of the boats are flat, and you see that in a lot. Artists have like the bottom of the boat curved, and you go, that's not right.
No.
It's in the water. It's floating. It's not in the water. I do want to create a painting, not a photograph. You can make photographs on canvas now. There's no real reason to make something look photographic as far as, for me, that's not my thing. I want it to look like a painting. I like to think that I'm making a memory of a place and not exactly what I saw. And I have it's not a quote, I probably won't say it right, but David Dunlop, does anyone watch his programs?
I know of,
Oh, he has, on Create Channel, he has very good TV programs about art. He paints, he's art history, and he paints, if you can catch him, David Dunlop, it's a Connecticut artist, and he has a very good blog. I don't follow a lot of people's, but his are very informative and interesting. And I like this quote, and I'll be paraphrasing, not getting it exactly. I want to create poetry, not a police report. You don't have to put everything in. And I think we're all guilty of that. You see it there and you think, that has to go in it. I'm trying to work more on composition. I take a lot of classes. I take a lot of classes down the Cape. I just took a workshop with Nick Petrorak from Providence and Color. But I took one last year during the pandemic. It was kind of a strange class, a short class with homework every week. Because we just had, it was a pandemic class with Mary Moquin on composition. So I am working on that. And I'm trying to crop things more and only pick what the interesting part that I like. I just did a plein air Pawtucket, and there was a church I wanted to paint, and I thought, well, the only part I really like about this is the steeple. Well, I decided, crop that, just paint the steeple. I've been doing some boats that are a portion of the boat, very cropped up close. I'm looking for shapes. I'm trying to find what am I looking at? Why am I painting this? I'm also editing out unnecessary things, and I'm trying to think shapes, not things. Even though I am somewhat a realistic painter, I think to get them, you have to think shapes. One of the things I do when I'm trying to work on my composition, a lot of times I put a dot in the middle, just so I don't put something bullseye in the middle, because I'm just going along and, oh, it's there, like, and sometimes I'll put a mark on both sides, try not to get that horizon line exactly in the middle. And every rule can be broken. I've seen paintings with something exactly in the middle. I've seen paintings with a horizon line exactly in the middle. But I want to be aware of it anyway and decide that I want to do that.
Do you ever paint upside down?
I do, especially working from a photo. I think when on the underpainting, if you flip your photo upside down, it gets out of your mind the thing part. That it is a boat, a tree, whatever, and you look at the shapes more.
Yeah.
It's a little tougher when you're working outside.
You picture yourself upside down. You stand on your head, yeah. Under between your legs. Yeah, right.
One of the things that I work in composition is trying to put something, your center of interest. Here it's this little boat. The easy way is to put it somewhere that's on the cross line of a third in your canvas. And that's like a really easy way to do it. And so I did it in this. But and this is a little acrylic of what I'm going to paint. I did a test one from my photo. So, I mean, it's not exactly, but it's close to the third and the third. But I try not to use it all the time. I think it can get kind of boring. So it's a possibility, but it doesn't always have to be in that section. Or that's the only thing that you're thinking about. I'm trying to do, sometimes if you're doing a rectangle, I like working on squares a lot. If you're doing a rectangle, you can try doing diagonal that comes down, and it makes a nice spot, a line that would come up where that diagonal is. And I find direction, when you have people looking or walking, you want them to be going in towards your painting instead of out.
Right.
You don't want to feel like they're heading off the edge. You're giving them a little space. So I like to do value first, and it helps me organize. Now I just got paint all over this, but using it. But this is one you can actually, I printed out. You can print out your own little value card, and I did it with paper punch. You can buy them for like $2.50, but then they get dirty, so you can print out a new one if you have it. It's just something you can Google. You can get a grayscale. I use this a lot outside, trying to find out which value. You can look through the little hole and try to match up when you squint where your value is and match it with your painting. To me, it's easier to think in one color, paint in one color, before I tried to pick what colors I'm going to put and mix colors to try to get my design down and just decide what's going to go where. So I like to work in one color. And I don't know if you've heard of a no-tan. So here's my original picture. So this is my picture from the river. And the first thing I did was I cropped it into a square. I don't know if I can just guess and do that. So, and I did that on the computer. A lot of times I play around on the computer with cropping and with color. A lot of times I just use the basic one on my iPhone or in my photo program, but there are a couple I like. I like Pixlr. It's a free online photo editor that has a lot of cool different things that you can do on it, and it's free. It's not, I don't think you even have to sign in or anything. You just use it and you can download your picture when you're done. And you get a lot of different ideas with it. You can do different filters, different color combos. And the one I like on my phone is Prisma. And the only thing I'll say about Prisma, it can be a little tricky. It looks like it's white with a black triangle. If you go to the App Store, it's free. But they constantly want you to upgrade and buy it. Yeah. So you just have to make sure when you open it up that you don't press the I want to buy the upgrade. I just use the free thing, and to me it's fine. It will show you like 10, 15 different versions of your photograph, and some of them are really outlandish with a bright orange sky or black and white or really crazy. But it can give you ideas on different color combinations. A lot of times I find if I look at it in that, I can tell whether it's a good composition, if it looks good in a couple different color combinations, or if it's really crummy and it doesn't look good in anything, like, no, pick something else. But you can, use your computer or even your printer and do something black and white. Another easy way is just take a piece of tracing paper and put it over your photo. And very easily, I think one of the things about using an app to make your photo not just black values of gray, but totally black and white, it's choosing the middle values, whether it goes to the light or the dark. And you're better at doing that than the app. Like, what would be better? So those middle values. But I can do it, a lot of times I just have a pencil today. I would do it with a marker. But you can easily go over your photo with a pencil and just do the easy thing. And I found my shapes. I'll do it in the back. There's my shapes. And you can see where I can have my two values, my darks and my lights. And I want to combine. I don't want to get too much into well, this tree has some light and some dark. You have to kind of squint and decide what is that big shape. There's going to be other variations in it. But that gives you your basic design. And since I did this at home, I wanted to show you one other way to do it. So that is acrylic underneath. I never used to do that. And I went and watched a well-known painter, and he was like, oh yeah, I just wait 5 minutes and I paint right on top of it. And now I do a lot of times, when I paint, I bring my paint, it's in the back of my car, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to do orange or pink or purple, some other color underneath. And I go out, take some reference photos, come back, and throw some paint in the car. By the time I my easel, it's dry enough to paint on. So, see if I can get that to stick up there. But the other method, I can paint right on top of oil. The trick with it is to rub it off. And I can do, or you can let it dry. So I mean, I could paint this at home. But if I'm going out somewhere and I want to paint it and I haven't decided what I'm going to paint yet, I could put some paint on a canvas. This is a panel. And actually, I think sometimes it's easier to wipe off a panel. And you don't want to get it too wet, like too much chirp, and I probably have it a little.
So tonight you're using oils?
Yes.
Okay.
This is acrylic underneath, and I'm going to paint over in oils. You can always paint oils over acrylic. You shouldn't go in the other direction. Most of the time when you buy a canvas, it has an acrylic gesso ground. I do try not to get it too thick. If you get it too thick, it gets too shiny and slick.
Yep.
So I try to keep it pretty thin. There is a clear gesso that you can add to it. It's actually really toothy. It's almost sandpapery, but if you found that you got it like way too slick, you got too much acrylic on there, you could do a clear coat on that and it will give you something to stick your oil paint to. But outside, I can rub it with a rag. I probably put a little too much oil on this. But go right in. I need a little more paint.
You just treat it like a tonal.
I treat it like a tonal. I guess I need a little more. The idea is that you don't want to spend the whole first hour trying to get your basic design down. And I think we've all been guilty of doing it. So if you can get out there and decide, well, this is what I'm going to fit in, and my horizon's going to be down here, and there's that light spot.
I think a lot of, especially when I started for the first time painting outside, it was how much time do I take finding that view that I want to paint.
Yep.
And sometimes I wish I'd taken a little bit more time, you know, than feeling like panicked that I had to find it right away.
Well, there's two trains of thought on that. So this is kind of the same idea. And the idea is just to get something down in the first couple minutes so that you're not spending so long, and then that you're not, I always get a lot of paint on me, an hour into it, you're not, oh, my boat's way too close to the edge, where we should have figured that out in the first 5 minutes. Or that my horizon line, where it's going to be, basics. I like to find this sky shape. A lot of times it will really help you draw, whether it's trees, whether it's a whole bunch of buildings. If instead of trying to draw the buildings or the trees, if you draw that sky shape, that edge, it'll really help your drawing, that negative space, to draw what's around it. And I think to make your artwork powerful, you really have to simplify. In the end, you can decide to add more details. And in this, I had a house up here, which I cut off. That was part of the simplifying. And then here, there's like a dock and stairs. And I said, do I need that? And even artists that are very detailed, like Andrew Wyeth, if you look at where he painted, his painting may be super realistic, but he eliminated a lot of things. What he left, he painted very realistically, but he made it much more simple. Usually, when you get the right value, you can put almost any color and have it look right, and have it look three-dimensional. And one thing I want to say about making this square, I probably should do this and get rid of this. Well, I can look at my other one that's square. A big mistake, I think, is trying to work from a reference that is not the same aspect ratio as what you are painting on. So if you have a rectangle and you're trying to fit it into a square, or even the difference between a little bit different rectangle, an 8 by 10 and a 9 by 12, you know, one is a little longer. All of a sudden your drawing is distorted and you're thinking, well, how come that didn't come out right? Because you're looking at your reference and it's not the same shape. So it's really hard to identify those shapes.
Do you ever do grids?
I do grids sometimes. And sometimes what I will do is just this, is I'll make just a little, you know, that's about a third, that's about a third, that's about a third, that's about a third. And just try to see what's in there. There's a very interesting artist that's at Trees. If you just, anyone go to Trees in Orleans? That's a lovely gallery with realistic art that's real high end. And I can't think what his name is, something with a B, but he has this whole series of the Square series, and they're gridded. And what he did was, he has like these different boats and stuff. He painted each section realistically, and you can see the lines. Like, they don't exactly line up, and you don't see them right away, but then you see that they're a little bit different between these different sections. And I mean, to me, it sounds kind of hokey, but actually they're very nice paintings. They're interesting.
You ever paint abstract?
I
Is that a photo? Sort of
I took an abstract class with my friend Jill Law about 2 years ago, and I learned a lot. It was in acrylic too, and I wanted to learn more about acrylics. And she's a wonderful abstract artist. I had a lot of problem with it. She works totally out of her head, and to me, I'm turning my abstract things into landscaping. But I decided at the end of it, it's not really a bad thing that yes, my abstracts turned kind of landscapey, and it is something I am working on, turning some of my landscapies into more abstract. Trying to find subjects that are more simple, that I can really abstract the landscape and still feel a little landscapey, but not be so literal. But I do have a hard time with the whole concept.
It's not easy to just work out of your head.
No, it isn't. There's a really good show in Dartmouth right now, Bill Kendall, and he is a totally abstract artist. He taught at Bridgewater for years, and they're really, I think they're online too, Dartmouth Cultural Center, but they're fun to see up close. They're all acrylic. He has a lot of different mark making. He makes the paint do all these different things. He tapes out different sections. I don't know. I find them really exciting and interesting. I like abstract a lot more than I used to.
It's very trendy now.
It is. And I love some of it, and some of it I don't. Besides this kind of value thing, does anyone have one of these? So this is a little viewfinder. Sometimes we get so hung up on our iPhone that you just go out and you start shooting with phones. I sometimes think this works better for isolating and really looking. And it has little marks, what's an 8 by 10, so you can get the right shape. It has a little hole to help you with value.
What is that called?
A viewfinder.
Oh.
Good question.
What a great question.
And people used to use the little cardboards from slides. Now no one even has slides anymore. But I remember going out with the little cardboards. But this is still nice to have. I like to bring one. And this is something else. If you don't like crazy orange underneath, these are pretty cool. They're Senso Canvases. They're clear linen, clear gessoed linen. It just gives you some color underneath so you're not starting on white. I find them interesting. I like them. They come in stretch canvas and little boards. And they do say with, I don't know why, with acrylics they're fine, and with oils you're supposed to put another layer of clear gesso, but I've done it without, it seemed fine. So I have a limited palette, what I usually work with. I usually drag way too many paints with me, and then I only use this many. Usually I use a warm and cool of each color. That's very traditional. So I have a warm and cool of each primary. So it's relative. I mean, reds are warm, but I have a red that's more towards the purple and a red that's more towards the orange, and an ultramarine blue and a phthalo blue. And I'll change sometimes. Sometimes I won't use a phthalo. Sometimes I use a turquoise, or I use a cerulean. I've been going back and forth between a alizarin crimson and a magenta. Alizarin crimson's darker. So it's fun to put a new color on your palette and try it out. Or only use 3 and white. I try to save the white and don't get into it right away.
It's hard in acrylics though.
But I just find it in oils, if I get it too white first, it's hard to get those darks in if you have too much white paint. I usually do rainbow, set up my palette like a rainbow. It just keeps, I know where they are, so you don't have to think about it. I know both those blues look really similar because they're so dark, but I can tell that's the ultramarine because it's near the red, and the phthalo's on the other side, and otherwise you might not know. I don't usually use a black. Occasionally I put one out. They make great greens. If you put a black out, you have, in the summer when like everything is so green and you need more variety, a black with one of those yellows will make a nice green. But most of the time to darken a color, I use the opposite on the color wheel. So if you have a little color wheel And to darken your yellow, use a purple. To darken your red, you use a green. Something across the color wheel. You don't really need to use black. And even though if you have your values right, I say you can use any color, to get the feeling of light, to get the illusion of light, things that are in the sunlight usually are warmer. Things that are out of the sunlight are cooler. And usually it's the ambient light, like this side of the boat is reflecting the sky, that it's blue. It's reflecting that sky color on a white. And it's a fun thing to do when, I think when I'm an artist, I'm always working. I'm always looking, tonight I walked down here and saw the beautiful Victorian houses, and the sky was lit up so bright. Some of those white houses are so dark. You're looking at the value of that house is so dark against that sky. So it's just kind of fun to look at things while you're outside and look at the colors. Sometimes it's fun to figure out what color is that. And sometimes the way to find it in neutrals, when it's really tricky, is what color it is not. When you're looking at a road and it's gray, what color, or these gray houses, cottages near me, oh, there's a lot of gray houses. What color is it not? Like when you look at roads, most of the time it's not green. I know that, but maybe the part in the sunlight is yellowish or orangish, and maybe the part in the shadow is bluish or purplish. The other day I even saw a road that really looked kind of red, and that kind of surprised me, but it was, I don't know if it was concrete or what, but it was, with the way the sun was on it, it was reddish. The only time I think maybe green street light might make it. And nocturnal lights can do the opposite. Instead of warm light, you might have a cool light and a warm shadow. But that can give the illusion of light. And I want to really, I usually pump that up a little more, a little or a lot, than I actually will see. But I think when I'm out there, I see more color than you get in your photograph. I know when you get home, don't you take a photo and you're like, it didn't capture it anywhere as much as that color as you really see it. So now I should get painting. So when you're doing color, it's all about comparisons. And I usually start with darker colors. And I try to remind myself that if you have a bigger canvas, use a bigger brush. With blues, a lot of times you have to add just a little white to make it get past being looking like black. Because if I put it on with no white, it's almost black. So I'm just adding a little. Long-handled brushes for oil painters, they're made to hold at the end. I know we tend to get in there and cramp on it, but really it's made to hold at the end so that you can stand back and look at what you're doing. I just had a teacher I just had at my workshop was saying that he tapes broom handles seriously onto his paintbrushes so that he can be this far away. Because he's doing big canvases, yeah.
A little heavy.
He never has to stand back from what he's doing.
Yeah.
Already there.
Wow. Control.
Well, and when I went to art school, I graduated in 1980. I took textile design, and at that time, unlike today, most of the textile design was in New York City. And when I got out of school, I had just met my husband, decided I didn't want to move to New York City. So I had been working for the post office summers in school, and I thought, well, I'll just take a job for a short time while I'm looking around for another job. And I was a letter carrier in Fall River for 33 years.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that time, I worked a lot of hours, and I didn't do any artwork. So I finally decided I really wanted to get back into art. And the way to do it is take a class. I took a class with, now she's a really good friend of mine. She's a great artist from Dartmouth, Susan Cabral. And Sue Cabral does a lot of boats. She's a very realistic painter, but she's a nice person. She's a great painter. She got me really enthused. And the other thing is, join an art association, join a group, do some group things, put yourself out there, do some shows. It's really the best way to get back into doing artwork if you haven't been doing a lot. And I paint with a group from Westport Art Group. We paint every Thursday, and during the summer we paint on location, or I shouldn't say summer, any day it's not too freezing.
That's nice.
And we have a lot of good locations. We get invited to private places, which we hadn't been doing as much during COVID. But we're actually painting at Westport Rivers Vineyard tomorrow. But it's really fun painting with a group. I learned so much from painting with other artists, and it is so interesting. Even if people do a totally different medium than you, a totally different technique than you, I think it's so interesting what people pick. You go somewhere and you think, I never would have picked to paint that, and they made a beautiful painting out of it. And you learn so much from that.
Great idea.
I think, when we all go to the same place, what inspires other people? To me, it's very interesting. And we can even be painting the same thing, and it comes out, painting side by side with someone, and ours comes out so different.
That's the beauty of art.
That is the beauty of art. So, one of the things I try to do is vary my brush strokes, try to make some different kind of marks, different thickness of paint. Usually when I'm starting out, I try to keep the paint pretty thin so that I can get more layers on top. If you get too much paint on to begin with, it gets a little tricky. And that's where I have a new favorite thing. I use this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it just works great. You go in, you can clean things up. You can make marks with it. I can make masks on sailboats. I can.
And what is that?
It's a rubber spatula.
Color shaper.
Color shaper.
Yep.
And they're very reasonable. I also have a big one. This is a kitchen one, and it has stainless inside, so it has some strength to it. This is great for really big pieces. I do some with cold wax now, so I'm mixing cold wax with my color, and I'm painting with this. You can just put on color in thin layers, and you can also make lines with it and cut parts out. It's really interesting tools.
Do you ever paint on wood? Like wood instead of canvas?
I do. This is actually a wooden panel
Oh,
with
that's wood, okay.
with gesso on it. I did score what I think was a great deal that I've been working on. During COVID, something good came out of it. This nice cabinet maker in Mattapoisett, he put an ad, I think it was on Facebook or something, that he was selling cabinet doors. And I went in, and I guess I only bought 10, and now I'm kicking myself, I should have bought more. But I bought them for $5 a piece. I have beautiful cabinet doors, they're like cherry or maple. I tape off the stiles, and they're a flat panel, paint in the middle, take the tape off, they're instantly framed.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
And for $5, I think, there's no way I could buy a nice canvas.
Someone calling into you.
Mike DeAngelis, go away.
Sorry.
But on the wood, I did use the, I've tried a few different things. I've used the clear gesso on the wood and have the wood showing through. And
You can sand it, scrape it.
I've also, Daniel Smith makes,
Not giving up.
makes a gold gesso. And I've used that both on canvas, and I've used that on the wood, and that was interesting to paint on top of it and just have real little bit of it showing through.
Oh, Gesso.
It's very metallic. And with oil paint, you really have to be careful because it's almost too much. I like to almost get a glaze over all of it so it's not so much in your face. But it's interesting. I want to try new things. I don't want to do it the same way all the time. Mary Moquin, a teacher that I've had at the Cape, I took my composition class. I went to a demo of hers a few years ago, and she's been doing these little houses forever that are really cool. But she started doing these treescapes and lots of different things. And she said, it gets to a point where I don't want to be baking a cake. I don't want to just do it the same every time and go, I can just do this, and then I get a painting and I can sell it and it looks like this. But try different things so that you get a different result. And because I think that's the only way you grow as an artist. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable, mostly because you can't count on it being a great painting. And so you have to take some risk that it's not going to come out good. But the nice thing about oil paint is that you can paint over it. I know watercolors, it is trickier. I used to do some watercolors. My watercolor teacher, she's still painting. Her name is Christine Beam. She's 100 years old, from Dartmouth. We had a drive-by birthday party for her last year. But a lot of times, even with watercolor, you really can scrub stuff out and change things. You don't have to think that it only can be one stroke and it has to be perfect. But it is trickier. I just want to get in some of my bright color here, see what's going on. Everything is a comparison. So I try not to spend too much time trying to mix the perfect color, because it's going to look perfect on here, and by the time I put it on here and it's next to another color, it may not be right. So I try it and I fix it. In this green is pretty garish, but this one up here is really too much. Most greens in nature actually have a little red in them. if I want to get something back that's a little bit more realistic, I might have to add a little red to it. But everything's a comparison. How warm is something compared to what it's next to? How light is it compared to what it's next to? I'm also finding I like working bigger. And I think it's, you get stuck in like certain sizes, you know, if you do everything 11 by 14, you get in a certain format that's a certain shape, a certain size. You can't use a big brush. When you do a really small painting, it's hard to see brush strokes because it's a small painting. So it's fun to try something bigger, and I've recently tried some real big paintings, like 4 feet. I bought some big paint brushes, like 3-inch paint brushes. They're really fun.
Where do you buy your art supplies usually?
I buy a lot at Jerry's. These are Jerry's Pro White. For a cheap brush, they're decent. I'm really tough on my brushes. I used to buy some rosemary brushes, which are very nice from England, but I do wreck them. I forget to clean them, and I'm like, oh, do I? It's just tough. These aren't bad. They don't last forever, but they clean up pretty good, keep a point for a while. They go on sale online. I buy them pretty reasonable. I also really like Jerry's Centurion linen canvas. It's expensive, but it is very nice. It's not what I'm painting on tonight. This is either a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's. The Centurions have gotten really pricey. They're linen. They have a very nice, smooth texture. I do buy some of them.
So it's Jerry's Artorama?
Yeah. And I go to the Providence store, or I buy some online.
I find online usually the best because they have a limited supply in the store itself.
Yeah, and the Jerry's in Providence is smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
But I like going in and actually seeing the stuff. Riverside in Somerset is a nice local small art store. If you ever need reproductions, it is the place to go. They have the same scanner as the Louvre.
They're fabulous.
They are fabulous. I've had them do a few reproductions for me, and they do a wonderful job.
Riverside Art Center, yeah.
I was lucky enough that I have some paintings in a bank in New Bedford, and that was an interesting thing. It was an art broker that set up the whole thing in this New Bedford, Bristol County Savings. They were doing this bank, and they wanted local artwork, and they had this guy who came in, and he figured out what to buy, and they bought three of mine, but they didn't buy the originals. They had them printed at Riverside, but great big reproductions. One actually was a smaller painting, and they blew it up.
Oh, nice.
But they have them at the bank. It looks great there. It's a restored building.
And what town you said it was in?
That's in New Bedford.
Riverside?
Oh, Riverside is in Somerset.
Somerset, okay.
Yep, it's on Route 6 in Somerset. They also do really nice custom framing for reasonable. And if you tell them you're the artist, they give you a break. And they're very knowledgeable, like they'll help you pick the right frame. No, it's a nice company to work with. It's a family-run small company.
And if you like ice cream, you can always stop at Somerset Creamery, which is just on the other side of the light, just saying.
Sounds like a day trip.
For paints, I buy a bunch of different kinds. I buy some Winsor Newton, some Gamblin.
God, I love that background. I love the orange. Like, wee.
Well,
Pretty abstract.
it's pretty abstract, yep.
What's your last name again?
Healy,
Healy.
yes.
H-E-A-L-Y.
Yeah, my husband is Irish. We've been to Ireland on one trip. It was wonderful. I use my maiden name Edlund professionally because there are some other Barbara Healys out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I put it in the middle. So let's see. One thing you always need to do is not just to get the end of your handle, but step back and see where you're at. My friend Sue Cabral, I used to take painting with, she used to say, you walk all the way to Fall River from Dartmouth, not just a little, because you want to see where you're at. One of the other things I find really works, the old masters used to use a reverse magnifying glass to look at something far away. Your phone works pretty good on it. When I get to a certain point, a lot of times I take a picture with my phone, I immediately see the mistakes.
Oh, of course.
Weird.
The minute you get on the computer, you find all your mistakes.
Yeah, but I just find the phone picks it up. Where I'm standing right next to it, I don't see it. As soon as I take a quick snapshot of it, I see it right away. So that is something I do, especially when I get towards the end and I'm deciding what else do I need to do, is it finished? I take a quick picture of it and look at it and think, oh, why didn't I see that?
Have you started orange paintings with an orange background?
I usually start with some color underneath, not always orange. I like to think of something that's opposite on the color wheel. So when I'm doing a landscape that's mostly blue and greens, I'm looking for something warm underneath. So it's usually an orange. I do hot pink a lot, magenta, and that's kind of fun to have like really hot pink showing through.
Is that what the little one is done with? The hot pink? What's the background on that?
I think this was pretty, had some, I can tell it had some orange.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Very good.
And actually, I went to a show down the Cape where he left a lot of the color on the sides, and I've done that recently in a couple paintings. I'm like, oh, it's fun. It probably wouldn't go in everybody's house, that's for sure. But I think it's kind of fun to see the color on the side of what you are painting. I just did a painting this week that had a orange boat. So to pop out the orange boat, I did almost like a plummy purple underneath, so that when it had like dark blue water, but the orange, I wasn't trying to put orange paint over orange. I had that purple underneath. So try different colors, and I have worked on blue underneath, like a blue-gray. I like the warmer colors. I know there's an artist, I can't think of her name right now, that's very realistic, and she used to say she would do like a burnt sienna underneath, and she said, I like to feel like it's the ground underneath my grass, like I put the earth underneath there, and then I put the grass and the trees on top. And this time of year, when you see the leaves turning, you almost feel like that orange is under there, even when the trees are green. You know, they lose their green, but there's that warmth in the green. If you see people who paint their green and they just use a Viridian right out of the tube, that doesn't look like a nature green.
Right.
It doesn't. Nature has some little red in that green. How am I doing on time? All right?
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, and you can keep painting if you want, up to you. Just so people can get up and take a look at get closer.
Okay.
Don't take really a break, just kinda get closer to what you're doing, and,
All right.
you know, we can walk up and take.
And if anybody has
look.
questions, look at my other artwork. The only thing I'll say, these little easels are pretty chippy, so just watch the feet on them.
Yeah, and watch out for the easel with the laptop on it too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We used to take a break and have food back here, but we can't do that anymore.
So I know you said that you might have people pick up things early on that day because the Patriots game is, but I know that's the new thing they started advertising last year. The Sunday after Thanksgiving is Artist Sunday. So it's supposed to be Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Artist Sunday.
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
They have a big national thing that you can join, and they give you a lot of, it's free, different things to promote Artist Sunday.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
I was gonna pay you, but you seem to be all painty. Want me to put it somewhere?
Oh, don't pay me. Oh, this is for me. I thought this was dues. This is for me. Thank you. I'll appreciate that. I thought
Chip's
you
our
were,
treasurer.
oh, okay. I thought you were paying dues. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. When you said that, I said, huh?
Well, I heard people saying they were paying their dues tonight. I'm involved in painting now. That's what I'm thinking about.
Now, when you do that, the blue over the orange, they're actually contrasting colors, so doesn't it change what the blue's gonna be?
It's dulling it down.
But when you put in the clouds, it's not gonna be there, and so is the blue gonna look different?
A
little bit.
A little bit.
Your underpainting was dry before you started.
My underpainting was dry before I started. I did one recently this week that the orange was oil and it was wet underneath. And I can really rub it out with a t-shirt, get it pretty dry underneath.
Yeah.
And if you lay your paint on top, you can put it on top, but it will mix more.
Yeah.
It will, all your color gets a little bit more of that color that's the underneath. And sometimes that's a good thing. I've had foggy paintings that had that pink underneath, and the whole thing permeates the painting. It's a good thing. So I do the open studio tour in the summer, and my group is 75 artists in 4 towns. We're very picturesque towns. And my studio is not fancy. It is over in my garage, so I don't have a lot of hanging space. I move everything out of my garage and hang most of my artwork in my garage stall. But we have lots of fancy studios on that tour in beautiful places by the ocean. It's really worth going to. Besides all the nice artwork, we have wonderful artists. We have a weekend in July and weekend in August. And there's also another art tour in my area called the Art Drive. That's in Dartmouth and Westport. That's a separate one. I'm the South Coast artist. I try to think when I'm working on a painting to where else can I use that color. So I'm not just working in one area. So I'm looking, oh, my boat needs that blue color too. So I have some in the reflection down here. It helps with mixing less color, plus cleaning your brush. If you can use, even if you're changing a little, if you don't have to change it completely off your brush, it's a good thing. That's a beautiful place down the Cape Grays Beach. It's on the bay side. It has a boardwalk that goes way out.
I like you did the edge, though, from certain way over to the left with the perspective, because you painted the edge of the painting.
Yep.
It's really cool.
I do it sometimes. Most of the time, actually, I just paint them. I have a blue-gray that I buy at Home Depot in one of those little sample things.
That's what that is?
That's what this is. And I use the same color so that when they get scraped up, I can touch them up and I know what color it is. And it's not a different color. Because they get a scrape or a mark on them, and you try to mix that same color, and it's tricky. But it's kind of fun to have them go around the edge. I don't like to get too detailed if I do it, and sometimes I just feel like it looks kind of gimmicky. I don't know.
Well, I was sitting way over there and I thought it looked very,
Good.
well, because that river has great, like that angle, and so it's really got a great perspective, like coming right off the influence.
Well, one thing I'm finding is my brush is dirty, and you can't get clean color if you have too much paint in your brush. I try to wipe it before put it in your turp. If you try to put your loaded brush into the turp all the time, your turp gets dirty really quick. And I used to paint mostly with one brush. Now I try to use a couple and have some that are kind of different colors. I'm also trying to use colors that I like. Why not? You know, instead of colors that I don't like. So does anyone know of a good bog to paint? I've been wanting to go to see, I see other people paint them and I don't really know where a good one is to paint.
Yeah, there you go.
Good bog.
That, yeah, cranberry bog?
Oh, cranberry bog.
Mm.
Oh, cranberry bog's
Is there
right.
one right at Patriots
There's
Place
Middle
or
Bog.
in
Nice.
Foxboro?
They
Yeah,
have a
Patriot
Foxboro,
Place
but
right
they
now.
also have them in Middleborough.
Huge, it's beautiful.
Is it?
Yeah, they're gonna have that art, what day did you say it was?
Yeah, Saturday,
Yeah, the day
But-
of the paint out, yeah.
Ocean Spray.
Ocean Spray comes in and.
But it has a,
Harvest Festival.
it has a good background as far as
Oh,
something to
yeah.
paint. I mean, I
Well,
see
there's
some that are
statue in there.
Got a couple of moose there.
Yeah,
It's fun to watch them carve it.
Bass Pro is there.
Yeah, right.
But Middleborough has some bogs. I think Carver does too.
I know Carver does. Most of the ones I've driven by, I thought, well, they didn't really have a good backdrop of trees, or I don't know. I would have to make it up, I guess.
But that is a nice area behind Bass Pro, where the cranberry bog is.
Oh, okay. I
And
heard,
there's some walking trails there, so you definitely could go in there.
I think I've seen people painting back there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just
I wouldn't
like-
doubt it, yeah, it's a good place to go.
On the left side, there's a little bridge to the right, so you can into the right.
I still feel like I'm too purple in the sky there.
It's amazing how electric that blue looks next to the orange. Yeah, you know, doesn't it, the
Yeah.
compliment?
Well, one of the secrets of getting your colors to really vibrate off of each other is they need to be close in the same value.
Right.
So a violet won't really vibrate next to a yellow, but a lilac purple will vibrate next to a yellow because we're in similar value.
Go out on plein air, you would paint like this. This is how you would attack a painting.
Pretty much, yeah. I just did Pawtucket plein air, and it was interesting. It was an invitational, so they had 12 artists that were invited to go paint.
That's the one that Nick did?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
And he expected us to do at least 5 paintings in 3 days. When he first asked me, I said, well, yeah, I guess I could come for 1 day. And he said, oh, no, it's 5-day paintings in 3 days. I did 6.
Good for you.
Um,
I remember your steeple painting. I did follow that online, the group.
Well, and that one was the last day, and it got very windy in the morning. I had my easel bungee to the
Yeah.
gate post out in front of his house, and then I found, actually, I didn't find it, this nice lady who was helping out there said, oh, behind the house, it's like a windbreak.
Oh.
So then I get behind the house, I'm like, well, what am I gonna paint back here?
Trade-offs.
The roof.
So, but I could see that church across the street, and then it had like these ugly cars, and I was like, I don't really like all that other stuff. So I said, I like the steeple, that's all I'm gonna paint.
No, I get a kick out of Sam Green. Do you know him?
Yes. Well,
He
I,
used to direct the Rhode Island Watercolor Society, that's how I know who
oh,
he is.
I don't really know him. I met him during this, and I wish I could watch him paint more.
Yeah,
Because I did watch him a little bit. He's a very interesting painter.
yeah. We had him here to do a demo.
Who's this?
Sam Green,
Okay,
yeah, we had him here before COVID.
yep.
Right before COVID.
He used like straight edges
Mhm.
that he held up and painted and started out very abstractly.
Yeah,
I found him to be a very interesting painting, and his paintings came out wonderful.
Now, Barbara, just to have an idea about, what you would sell your paintings for, like something you got going here, these different ones, just approximate idea.
I am trying to do more gallery pricing because I'm in a couple galleries. Like
Yeah,
my Norton gallery, I only get 50%. In Rogers, it's a 40-60 split, which is a little better. But it does really up your prices.
yeah.
So I think this has like I have prices on the back. I have 1,600 on this. And I think that one was like around 12.
Yep.
I do, for my open studio, I discount a little bit. And mostly my older things, I discount some older things so I have more newer things.
You do limited editions?
I do have some things scanned at Riverside. I'm actually going to start doing it through them. I have one G-Clay at Rogers right now of the Tabor Boy, which I haven't sold yet. I sold the original.
well, and oils, I mean, everything's just gotten more expensive.
Oh, I know. The canvas, the paint.
Everything,
Yeah.
and framing, holy cow.
I just made a maple frame this week for a show I was in. I'm like, oh, it is. It's so expensive. And
Yeah.
and the fact that I don't even have it when I need it,
Right.
I need it this week, and I don't want to bother ordering it or anything. So I am doing some of my own woodworking.
Yeah.
Or I've been doing a lot of these that with no frame. Because invariably, people say to me, if it's in a gold frame, I really would like it in a black frame. And if it's in a black frame, they want it in a gold frame.
I'll spray paint that.
What happens all the time.
Yeah, I know,
Can you swap this for this?
I know.
And can I get a big discount? And I was like, no, actually, it takes me more time to take it out of that
Right.
frame.
Exactly.
Well, unless they're a really serious collector, they don't understand anything about the costs or.
Well, even some of the serious collectors. I have a guy that buys, that I know very well, that buys probably 15 paintings a year. And even then, he was looking at a painting in India that he really loved. He saw it online, loved it, he bought 3 of them. And then he called me up and he said, Jack, I'm getting prices to frame this. I can't believe the prices. Do these make sense? And I said, yes, they really do.
Well, do you know, my framer told me that, and wouldn't surprise anybody right now, but the shipping container that Ewell Larson used to get for their frames from abroad would be like a $3,000 charge to them for a container. Now it's $26,000
Wow.
for the container. So I went in and framed a lot of stuff before prices went way up. And there's nothing that the frame or anybody can do,
Yeah.
you know? They can't lose money doing what they do for a living.
Yeah, I work for an art company and we're selling, our lead time was 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
Now it's like 6 to 8 weeks.
I know,
Yeah.
it's terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Well, that's why I'm trying to make some of my own frames or do them with no frames.
Yep.
Smart.
Well, you have to do what you gotta do.
Yeah. I like having the orange underneath, and then it gets to a point, and it depends on what you're using, where you just got to get rid of that orange underneath. Or not all of it, but most of it. It's driving you crazy.
I love the orange peeking through the trees though.
I'm just trying to keep my palette sort of clean and organized here, which and I do think it's interesting when paint mixes on your canvas. And that is something that happens more with oils than acrylics. Although, I don't know if anybody knows Mike Bryce from Providence.
What's the last name?
Bryce, B-R-Y-C-E.
I've heard it.
Yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, he's everywhere. He's at Waterfire. He paints a lot. And he used to paint in oils, and now he does mostly acrylics. And I was watching him paint. He came at the end of the day to paint at that Pawtucket Plein Air, because he was doing something else during the day. But he'd come at the end of the day and come paint. And he uses a spray bottle constantly. Like, he's doing acrylic, but he's spraying his painting. And the other thing that cracked me up was that he uses a CD case for a palette.
Wow.
He has his paint in it, and he just closes it at the end, and it just kind of smooshes together. But
Cool. Now there's a good use of some junk.
It is.
Debunk junk.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, and I have some friends that are really art snobs, and we kind of laugh about it. It's their thing, you know. They like to buy the most expensive stuff to paint with, and they have all these fancy palettes and stuff. And I think this guy can paint. He paints in his lap. He doesn't have an easel. He's using a CD case.
Right.
And he paints great paintings.
Right.
One of my favorite painters down the Cape is Larry Horvitz. He's at the Cove Gallery in Wellfleet. He's a palette knife painter. But he also, I see pictures of him painting, and he's sitting on the beach with a painting like this big on his lap.
Oh my God. And the sand and the...
Yep.
That's crazy.
I just think, I know so many people that they're just like so into what easel is the perfect one.
Right.
Maybe you got to do it.
I've gone through a lot of them. I'm really tough on my equipment. And I paint a lot. This is not bad. I've had this easel for a little while. It's a Plein Air Pro.
Oh, yeah.
The nice thing about it is the whole thing fits in that backpack.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
The tripod and everything can fit in there.
I
And
think being lightweight is good.
and I painted in Mystic last year, and I had to park about a mile away from where I painted.
Oh, gosh.
And it was really nice to be able to put it in a backpack.
Right.
What do you do about water? Like, what, do you bring like spray bottles and?
Well, this is oil, so
Oh, right,
I'm
right.
using chirp.
So that's what you typically do when you use oil and you.
Yeah, if I'm using acrylic, I do bring spray bottles, a small one. I also have a Gloucester easel. Does anybody know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
A what?
A Gloucester easel. It's like a big wooden tripod. But the advantage is it has a very big footprint. It's like 5 feet apart, and it works in heavy wind conditions. So there are times when it's windy, and
Put a big rock in the middle on this thing.
yep. This I bungee down. You can either bungee it to a pole, or I bungeed it to a telephone pole. But you can also, always carry a bungee. I can put my whole case with a bungee and wrap it around the tripod and hang it from it, and that will do most. I have an umbrella that does not hook onto my easel. It's a spike that goes into the ground, because otherwise I feel like your umbrella is taking your easel over. And even that, I had that at the plein air, even that vented umbrella blew inside out.
Oh.
So it didn't blow down, but I couldn't keep it up. I do like to use an umbrella outside, or you just find shade.
Some people use the back of their vans or SUVs. They
Oh, right.
pop open the.
Yeah,
Good idea.
I have seen people do that. You do find that if you work with your painting in bright sunlight, when you get back, it's nowhere as bright as you thought.
Mhm.
So I like to use an umbrella or work in the shade. It's always nice for the artist to be in the shade. So here I got like some of the green into my cloud, and I don't like it. And that's where this comes into. You can pull this out and clean it up. And then put some clean paint on there, get rid of that. I still got a little.
Are there times when you leave more orange showing through, or
Yes.
times when you won't show any at all coming through? Or?
Sometimes I won't show any. By the time I'm done, there's none showing through. And sometimes I've been kind of happy with it partway through and decided I'm going to leave more.
Yep.
And I can also go back and put some on top. So a lot of times when I get to a certain point, I'll put some of that, I'll make some orange or pink or something and put some accents on top in paint. Usually reflections are a little darker if it's a light reflection, a little lighter if it's reflecting something dark. It's a little duller. And I find most of the time, although it looks great in photographs, you don't want to be exactly mirror image in a painting.
No.
You want to, make it look like it's a little more watery. In a photo, you can get away with that. In a painting, it just doesn't look right. And the same kind of goes for sunsets. And photos, sometimes you can get those really wild sunsets, and in painting, sometimes it just looks like too much.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to clean my palette a little much. Trying to eke out another clean spot over there. When I'm getting towards the end with lighter colors, I like to put on some thicker paint.
You varnish it painting?
Most of the time not, but I do occasionally, and I find sometimes, depending, I'm not using any medium tonight. Sometimes if I use a medium or if I'm using some of the cold wax, there's parts that have different sheens that I'm not happy with. So I will use the Gamblin Varnish. There's a Gamblin one that it doesn't have to wait 3 months. It can be finger dry. And sometimes I mix that with some of the cold wax between the two and like rub it on. I have sprayed them. I'm not as crazy about the spray, but sometimes it's what you need. But in general, I don't like super shiny. I know some people do. They want to varnish it to a real high shine. I don't really like that look as much. When you add white to colors, it cools it. So if you have like a red, like on the little ball, if I really want to keep that warm, I'll add yellow to it to lighten it up instead of too much white. Maybe add some white, but if you add too much white, it turns pinky. So I'm always trying to think of what's the thing that's the worst that I need to fix. And when I look at this, I think that I don't have this side of the boat. Well, maybe it needs to be a little bit lighter. Can't tell till I put it on there. Even more white.
How are you gonna get this home tonight? Gonna be all wet?
It's going to be all wet. I carry wet paintings in my car all the time.
How do you do that?
Carefully.
Piece of cardboard.
Piece of cardboard. I have the big cardboard boxes that they are on, so this is just going to lay on top. I do find,
Don't slide.
No, don't take any quick turns.
pizza boxes work good for smaller works. Put a pizza box in your car and you can just put it right in there.
Or the top of a copy paper box or something like that, it's the top.
And also, I usually have like a complete art studio in my car. Assortment of different canvases, art supplies, all kinds of stuff. If you have a bigger canvas, like most of the time, maybe outside I'm working on something this size, if I had this in the car, I could flip it over and put it in the back, you know, inside the stretchers, and it's sitting in the stretchers safely in there. And if that's a little too dark. I do try to use good paint. For toning your canvas, it really doesn't matter. I'm using acrylic but on this, but even if I was using oil, because you're not mixing it, it doesn't really matter if it's strong or if it's good paint. But when you're mixing colors, if you have crummy paint, it is so weak, it just kind of dissolves and it doesn't make good mixtures. But paint has gotten ridiculously expensive. I look at, you know, a lot of tubes of paint are $30 for a small tube of paint. These are really nice, but they're expensive. These Michael Hardens. So most of the time I use Winsor Newton, Gamblin. The Rembrandts are nice. I don't usually buy, I know it seems like it would be more economical to buy big tubes. I buy big tubes of white, and I've been using Permelba, if that's the right name of it. Yeah, Permalba. Someone was just telling me about Radiant White by Gamblin they really like, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll try it. See what the difference is, I don't know.
I use a quick dry white by Gamblin.
Okay. Is it Alkyd?
Yeah, I like I like the Gamblin products.
I have tried some of the Alkyds that dry a little quicker, and
Yeah.
it's nice if you can just add the white to stuff.
You can also add a little tiny bit of Galkyd gel color to make it flow.
Yeah.
And
I was trying Neoglip, which is also a Gamblin province. The only thing about that is that is super shiny.
Yep.
And then I found that my sheen was like, parts of it were super shiny and parts of it weren't, and I wasn't that crazy about it.
Yeah, then you gotta oil the painting out before you varnish it.
Yeah. So I am trying different things.
What's that mean, you have to oil the painting out?
I really am not good at explaining.
Well, or you have to put
Taking-
some kind of varnish on it, something to make the sheen
Yes,
be the
sometimes
same.
you're taking a little bit of the mineral spirits to get some of the oil out and unify the areas that are shiny with the areas that still look matte and
And you have
so
to do
forth.
that before you
I'm
varnish
really
it?
lucky, I have a friend that does this for me.
Okay.
Wow.
And varnishes it. And I know, I'm spoiled.
We all need
I
some.
I know. But anyway, and I had no idea what it is, but the one thing nice about Gamblin, they have a wonderful website. You can call them and they'll talk to you about anything.
Golden,
They're so friendly, they're really great, they give you all kinds of information. So.
for acrylics, Golden.
And Golden's fabulous too.
Golden has a really cool tool online. Has anybody used the color picker?
No, I haven't used their
Yep.
color picker, but
It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So you take your photo and you download it. I don't think you have to sign in or anything. You just go to the Golden color picker,
yeah.
and you put your photo in there, and you drop the dot on it, and it will tell you what colors
Color.
to make that color, what color paints. You
Yeah.
add this color and that color. And it's not that I would run out and use those two color paints
Right.
to always make it. But sometimes, especially, I find like in sunsets, you have like all these complicated colors. You have some brights, but then you have some neutrals up there. And is it almost green? Is it, you're like, what color is that in my photo? And it really kind of surprises you when you do that. It's not what you thought. And maybe I'll ignore it, put what I thought. But I think it's interesting.
So they're a really high quality company, wonderful company.
And their paints aren't cheap either.
No, very expensive. They had more mediums and more stuff before everybody else did. I had a friend that used to rep for them. One way to get free paint.
I think that sounds like a good idea. No, I've gone to their demo things.
Mm-hmm, yep. Looks wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I know it's not like a realistic painting.
Oh, we like it. I'll take it.
You see how realistic, that's really nice.
I just put a few sky holes. Whether to do that, sometimes I think like with trees outside, you get too much into the different shades of green in the tree, the sky holes, all this. You've really got to look at just like the shape of the tree and simplify it.
Yeah, you can overdo that.
So I have to get back and see where I'm at. And I just feel as though when I look at it from a distance, that I lost some of my dark in there. So I might just add a little more.
certain color. I usually don't, I usually work around it. Sometimes I just want the exact color. So, but that's good to know. I do.
Sometimes I look at things and I'm like, what color is that? Like, look, you know, if you're looking like at water or something and you're like, it's not blue, it's like, what color is that?
Oh, when you look
know?
at the water,
Yeah.
water's got so many colors.
Yeah.
That is where that color picker thing gets to be fun, to
Right.
just to look at it. And that's where I think the app things that give you different color combinations of your, can be fun just to see how it would look in different colors. And if you've ever been somewhere that you really wanted to take pictures of the paint, or you wanted to paint there and the lighting was just really blah that day, and you know, like there was just no sunlight, and one of the times I went to Nantucket, I was just like, oh, how come there's no sun on anything? And I came back and I messed around with some of my pictures and like add my own color to it.
Yeah, why not?
Yep. And not to say that there's nothing wrong with a foggy Nantucket picture too, but it just gives you other options. Like maybe that foggy Nantucket picture would look good with some of that gray being orange gray than just plain gray.
Do you ever mix your colors together, like on your palette, so that it's, you know, you're taking colors from everywhere?
I do. And I have mixed at the end and made a gray that I've used in other things. Let's see, do I have a small brush? I was going to put my one little, my line here in red. Does anyone use a maul stick?
Rarely.
Yeah, I have one. I rarely use it.
For still life, something like that, it's more exacting.
I do find, I use my finger. I didn't put it in there. I know a lot of, a lot of old-time artists swore by their maul stick.
Right.
You don't see it used too much.
No, school kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Because we've got loose.
We don't want
Oh,
colors.
no.
Well, I don't know if it's really finished, but I think I'm probably done.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah.
And then you too. Not just your painting.
That's okay.
We'll get you next to your painting, Barbara, how's that?
No, we want your painting, not you, no. That's beautiful,
Yeah, it is.
really nice.
Oh, come on, phone. Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for having
Great
me.
seeing you.